Who says crafting is a dying art? I'm finding crafters all over the Middle Tennessee area who make unique items that'll be passed down for generations to come. Welcome to HandMade Tennessee. I'm Kimberly Vance, along with my very special guest today, Valerie Wells.
Hi, Valerie. How are you doing?
Great. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for coming down with us today.
Well, thank you for letting me come and be a part of this. It's wonderful.
Your stuff is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
It is one of the most unique items that I think I've seen in quite some time.
Well, thank you.
What do you actually call your work?
I like to call it more of like a heritage design, a vintage heritage design, because I like to have meaning behind it, things that that will go with not only be useful, but also have meaning and show the heritage of what's been going on.
And preserve a lot of the past.
That's right.
Which is what crafting, a lot of it that you buy today, you know, that we just buy and we use and we throw away.
Right.
It doesn't have any meaning like a lot of this stuff does. And some of the stuff we get today certainly could not be passed down because it won't hold up long enough. Some of the pieces you have made here are absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love this right here. This is gorgeous. Now, you were telling a little bit about how this piece came to be.
Yeah, this right here is just some sheet music. I've got two daughters, and we go through hair bows and things like that.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. And mine get gone very quickly also. So, but with this, burlap is a staple in my burlap. I use it for everything, and it's very inexpensive, and it goes really well with vintage items. But this is old sheet music, and then this is an old earring. I like it because you may have old earrings or something like that, one's broken or you've lost one, and they're in a drawer, usually in a bag somewhere, and you hate to throw them out. So I wanted to find a good use for them.
That's what we were talking about earlier. It's unbelievable how much stuff, how many beautiful items like that get thrown away because we think, well, there's no way in 100 years we'll ever find a mate for it. Oh,
but you can't just throw it away, you know. So like if it was your grandmother's or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, a lot of times we were talking too about yard sales and places like that. You know, they're just a wealth of items.
Yeah. Well, and too, a lot of the things I like to use may not have a purpose anymore. Like, especially, of course, this is not having to do with the jewelry, but like in cooking and things like butter molds and little cake, people just don't cook like that anymore. And so I find other uses for those also. So
that's
it's
neat.
Just different uses that we can have today.
I want to talk to you about how you got started on making your paper jewelry and your paper items. This is a great story.
Well, it's just accidentally. I had been matting a antique picture, and I'd messed the mat up, and I was like, I didn't want to have to do it all over again. And so I thought, oh, I've got these books, and the color on them is absolutely beautiful. So I thought, well, I'll just make a little flower and cover up my mistake. And so I whipped up a little flower and stuck it on there, and it looked really good. Of course, though, I didn't get to like hang it up anywhere yet. It was just laying there over my mistake. And I had, a couple weeks later, I had to go to a funeral, and I had black on. I didn't have any really jewelry that just I thought would look good. I thought, boy, that would look good as a brooch. And so I took it and just safety pinned it on and went on to the funeral and got a lot of compliments, and that's how it all got started.
And so that's how all this whole, that is just amazing. It is absolutely beautiful. And this piece right here, I love this colorful piece. Now, you don't always necessarily have to have old books per se.
Well, it could be just like, you know, scrapbook paper. It doesn't even have to be old to use. This is made from a golden book, the old golden books, Cinderella, and you can see the actual people on here, Cinderella, and I purposely made sure that in my leaves that I cut out some of the characters so that you could see them. And I think I made some of these for like some of my children's teachers as teachers' gifts. I think I did one that had the ABCs on it, and then one like a Cookie Monster type thing.
Oh, how adorable.
So you don't necessarily have to use vintage paper. You can use newspaper. You can use scrapbook paper.
Now,
anything.
newspaper would be good to like preserve an event or something. That would be neat with like the date and stuff.
You could do, and on some of my pieces, especially, I will put in the date. You know, if it has it like at the top of the piece of paper or something, I like to incorporate it so you can sort of see where it came from and the date on it.
Oh,
and
that's
stuff.
a great idea. Now, this piece right here, I thought was absolutely incredible.
Well, this is a good example because this is one of the things I wanted to demonstrate today was the antique paper beads. This piece this is a picture of my grandmother, and one of the reasons why I started doing things like this right here is I like to give gifts with meaning, and this was a gift to my mother for Mother's Day so that she could have my grandmother, who originally is one of the reasons how I got a lot of my artistic ability from was from my grandmother, and so that, to me, that has meaning. But it does, one of the funny things is the day that I went to that funeral, an aunt of mine who's in her late 80s commented on my brooch, and then she started to tell me the story of paper beads. I did not know anything about them, and how her mother showed her how to do them when she was a little girl. And during the Victorian times, it was very proper for a woman to learn different pursuits like china painting and things like that. Well, one of the things that they learned was making beads out of paper. And generally, they weren't necessarily for jewelry, but they would make curtains to go through the different bigger beads to go through different places. But it was very appropriate that I thought it went with my some of my creations of the flowers with the paper. So that's how that began.
Wow.
But it has a historical significance.
Oh, that's something else. And now your eye for color and things, you, like you said, you came by that pretty honestly, but you also have a degree.
Yes, I've got a degree in interior design, and I do residential and commercial. But one of my loves is actually doing things with my hands.
Yes,
so,
it seems like the instant gratification is pretty good there. All right, so you're going to show us how to make some beads today?
Right. And these beads can be used for, it can be used for jewelry, it can be used for lots of times. One of the things I use a whole lot are antique watches, and I will take out the workings. Of course, I'll save them and use them for later, for some other project, and then make little shadow boxes out of them. And you can put the little paper beads in there, or just different, anything you want to, even pictures in there.
Shadow boxes, isn't that smart?
Made out of, because people don't use those watches anymore, and they're absolutely beautiful.
They are.
So, but the beads can be used for anything. I've used them in the middle of brooches and different things.
Now, in order to make the paper beads, what do we need to get started?
Okay.
What supplies would we have to have?
All you will need is usually what everybody has in stock is just any kind of paper, color, whatever that they think is, would be pretty. And then scissors, you can use regular scissors. I've got a rotary blades because they seem to do a little bit better. And then you can use school glue, you can use any kind of glue. I use toothpicks so that you can put them on there. And then one of the things that I use, I've experimented with several things to make them more durable after you use them. Of course, you're not going to be able to go in a rainstorm. If it's going to rain, you not necessarily want to wear this
paper jewelry.
Right.
Okay.
But you want it to be a little more durable. So one of the things I found that works really well on it is clear nail polish.
I love clear nail polish.
Yeah.
It has a million uses.
Oh, I know it. So, and it's easier to put on, especially because they're round.
Right.
So you can just paint them on there. And so just something where you could, like toothpicks, and somewhere you can put it so that it'll dry. And that's
Is that
about
what you've
it.
got your cone for? Is to stand your pieces on?
I'll just take toothpicks with the beads on them and stick them on there.
Oh, cool.
And then I can paint them and they can dry.
And now stuff like this, like you were saying, is pretty easily obtainable.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it we do, as crafters, we do have a lot of this stuff at home.
Well, and just, or a floral foam, you can take it and just, it doesn't necessarily have to be a cone. You can just stick it in the floral foam or anything.
All right.
You know, or stand there with it like that.
If you've got a lot of time on your hands, right? Or if you want to look busy.
That's right. That's correct. To start out, I'm going to make some really bigger beads so that it's a little easier to see. And,
all right.
And for like the jewelry, I do really little beads. But what the beads are basically made out of are long triangles. And when you roll them up, you'll see the edge of them as it gradually goes down to the very tip.
Oh.
So you can make them different lengths. The longer you have them, the fatter the bead's going to be.
Okay, all right, I see
So,
what you're saying.
yeah.
All right.
So
the longer the triangle is, the bigger your bead's going to be. All right.
And now the wider it is how wide your bead's going to be.
Okay.
I'm going to do one using this wonderful polka dot so we have a little color. And this is just paper that I've got. Now, lots of times, scrapbook paper is white on one side, so when you roll it, some of the white may be showing depending on how you roll it. So you might want to think about that. Two-sided paper, lots of times it does really well also.
Okay.
And
just any kind of standard paper you think will work.
And usually it's the thinner it is, it works better.
Okay.
Yeah. The real thick is hard to roll when you're trying to roll things.
All right.
Now, you can be very precise and use a grid. I like instant gratification, so I usually don't measure mine out.
All right.
I just eyeball it and then sort of go from there. So I'll just start out. I'm going to do a huge one.
Okay. All right. And
All right.
a triangle.
Yeah. And we can narrow this down to a point because it does better when it's a point at the end. And
now I'm noticing that your triangle is not completely, I mean, you've not put a whole lot into making the triangle.
No.
It doesn't look like you're worried that it's not. Okay. All
because I mean, you can do that, but if you're going to do a bunch of beads at one time, there's not really a need.
Well, it seems like, too, you would come out with a prettier piece if it wasn't exactly completely uniform.
And I find that because once you roll it up, it's so compact, it's not going to matter very much if you've not cut it exactly straight or anything. And I sort of like the imperfectness of stuff.
Well, it makes it look more real.
Right, right. Now, this is a quilling tool that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I found that it works really well on the smaller beads for rolling.
All right.
But you can use a toothpick, any kind of little, this is a folding tool where you can fold things. Anything that's round you can use so that you have a hole in the middle of the bead.
Okay. Okay. Something for your string or whatever you're going to do. Okay.
That's
all right.
correct.
Gotcha.
Now, and this is like a knitting, using knitting, and I'm going to use it for the bigger bead.
Okay.
You start at the biggest end first to roll. And to get it started, you just need to sort of wrap it around here like you're going to cover it with the thing, and you just start rolling it.
All right.
Now, like so. And you just keep rolling.
Now, do we need to make sure it's tight?
Yeah, usually make it as tight as you can, just so that it doesn't unfold. Okay. It's not as easily unfolded later. But, and then usually what I do is I'll take some glue.
Now, any certain kind? You said school glue or?
School glue, especially if you're working with children, the stick glue is really good because it doesn't go everywhere.
All right.
I just pick up whatever I've got on hand. Okay. And I usually have 5 or 6 different glues, so just whatever I've got, on hand. And just you don't have to put it on all of it, just on the very end of it.
Just enough to get it to stick.
Right. And then you just And you may have to hold it just a second so that it'll, depending on your paper, some paper does it really nicely. The older paper can be very brittle, so sometimes you may have to even start over depending on the paper. But usually though, once you get it rolling, it does really nicely. And see, there's
that is something else, a bead.
big bead.
Goodness, I cannot believe that.
Now,
You know what? And I'm envisioning this back in the 1800s.
They
as
would have-
beads on curtains. Wow, I'm telling you what, that would be outstanding.
yeah, and that's originally, you know, what they used mainly for.
Wow.
And then I usually do several at a time, and then I will just sort of stick them on there, and then take my clear nail polish, and I'll have a couple at a time, and then just start putting it on there, like
Just
that.
kind of seal it in.
And that helps hold it together too.
And do you do it all over the whole bead?
I do it all over the whole bead.
Okay.
Now there's different mediums that you can use for it. One of the things I suggest is looking in the scrapbook area, because they have a lot of different mediums that you can use. Like this is a triple thick gloss glaze. You may have to use a paintbrush for it, but it'll put on a little thicker mantle almost around the whole thing.
All right.
But
So if you want, basically it's how you want it yourself.
right.
Okay.
Right, but like you can make these any size. That's what I like about this, is because you can make it look more modern, or you can make it look antique. It just depends on whatever paper you use. And this is a great craft for kids. You know, to make, would be great Christmas presents to make for, you know, their family members and stuff.
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What else are you going to make for us today?
well, basically, I was going to
So cute.
just show you some of from the antique paper how I sort of craft the flowers.
Okay, great. Oh, that'd be wonderful.
And a lot of that is just free form.
Sit that over here
Yeah,
for you.
that'd be great. And it's sort of like trial and error. Now, this is
There are no mistakes. I'm
no,
betting.
there's not. This is one of the books I started with because it was, to begin with, it was a dictionary. It was set up about this big. And I thought, you know, I teased my kids. I said, I'm going to make you take that to school with you as in your book bag. And they were like, but
I bet you it weighs 40 pounds.
it does. And I've used it for a lot of stuff. In fact, this wreath was made from the pages from it. You can see the alphabet on there.
That is absolutely a stunning piece.
Yeah.
Where in the world did you come up with that? You've got the mirror and then like a sunburst behind it.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous.
And you can do different, you can actually do it with different, like rosettes or anything like this. But I like the uniform look of, and I can show you how to roll the paper for it also. It's not very hard to do at all.
All right.
And actually, since we're talking about that, I'll show you that really quickly. Okay. This dictionary, I would suggest, though, that before you start tearing up old books, is to maybe research and make sure that it's not one that's more valuable as a whole than, you know, you would hate to something of several.
One that's been in somebody's attic.
Right.
That is worth
Several thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Right?
So.
Gosh, that'd be the luck, wouldn't it?
But used to, you know, they would have the agricultural yearly volumes that they would have, and they're not really worth a whole lot.
Yeah.
As a book itself, because everyone had one.
Right.
So, but the pages are really pretty, you know, and because it's got that aged look that you can't find very often. So what I'll do for this is just take a page out, and it doesn't even matter that the end of it is crooked or whatever, because you're just gonna.
Like I said, no mistakes.
And especially for this wreath, what I did was, it's similar to the beads. You just start rolling like a cone.
Okay.
And you will start rolling. And I usually like to take both hands, and it helps secure it. And once you get it rolled, you can make it, you know, however big you want. And then I will take you can get the round cardboard pieces that you put cake on.
Yes.
And I will layer those around on top to make your wreath. And then you can put anything you want to in the middle.
In the center of the wreath. Oh, that's a great, so you would use like a cake form, or even if you had some cardboard, you can make just...
I've cut them out, but it's easier just to buy a pack of those you can get at
49
Walmart.
cents or something, cheap.
Yeah, and then you can just layer these around and fill it in.
And then you could potentially come out with something like
Right.
that. What have you got, like two or three?
Yeah.
Just different places?
Yeah, and you can do them smaller than this. You don't necessarily have to, like if you've got a big page, I have before would bend it in half or cut it right here so that it would make a smaller one.
Oh,
so you just vary it.
That is so neat. All right, now make us a piece of jewelry.
Okay. Now,
I'll tell you what, Valerie, this is something else.
Well, thank you. I just think that it's neat that, you know, people start, you see it and you don't necessarily see that it's from an old book.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's interesting. And then you start looking at it. And that's what I like about it, is because it's the details.
Yes. And plus it gives you something to enjoy, because every time you look at this, I'm sure you see something different.
Right.
That you've not seen. It would take you forever to see all of that.
Right. Well, if you get started looking at the different definitions in the dictionary and stuff, it could take you forever to do this, because you start reading like, oh, I didn't know that. You know? But
so it's an educational piece as well.
That is right.
All right.
That's right. And that's a good way to you can put this in your bathroom, and then people sitting there, they can read it. That's right.
There you go.
But
I like a piece of this two-fold like that.
Now, I usually do, you don't want to do a whole piece. I would usually do for the flowers in strips, usually like a third or a fourth of a normal page.
All right.
And for this one, I usually try to pick out, I don't know if you can tell that the end of this is sort of more yellowed, and that makes a better leaf or flower part.
Okay. For aesthetics, the way it looks, it makes it prettier. Okay.
Right. But you don't necessarily have to have it that way. But just keep in mind, if this is going to be out, and usually what I do is I'll just gather it or do an accordion fold. Like I don't know, we used to make these when we get hot in church, you do the fold and do the little fan.
Yes.
And like I said, this is another good activity for kids. You know, they find it fun just working with paper and seeing what you can come up with. And we'll just fold it out.
Plus, it's recycling.
Yeah.
I mean.
And then from there, let me fold the rest of it into accordion. Usually what I will do is, after I've folded it up, lots of times I will just crunch it up, but to start with, usually lots of times it's better just to do it like you would a fan. And I will fold that over, and you can put several together and make a whole circle.
Okay.
And then I will usually take regular scissors.
Now, it would be sort of similar to this if you did the whole fan?
Right, that's correct.
This is several pieces, I see.
Right.
Okay.
And then I will take scissors and cut the leaves out from the fan.
Okay.
So you would just take and make more rounded edges on it.
Like leaves, like the pieces here.
Yes.
So you've got the edges like that right there.
Yeah.
Again, this would be a matter of personal preference, wouldn't it?
Right. Or, you know, and different flowers have different looks to it. So whatever you're aiming for the particular, you know, like a particular dress or something like that, you can have different kinds of flowers for that. But it's very simple, and then you just start adding them together. And you know, if we kept going here, I'll show you how you, and to put these together, lots of times I will just use a hot glue or hot glue gun. And even if it starts coming out, you can just trim it out. Once it's dried, trim it with scissors, and then to make it more clean. Now this piece has a little a metal piece on it, like you can get in the jewelry department.
Well, and too, I mean, how many of these do you have laying around?
Yeah.
You know, the old piece of.
That's right.
Something that wasn't usually
Yeah.
very valuable.
Well, and too, you can use like the old brooches. You can just start attaching it to the back of it. So from there.
Wow. So we do need something though to work on to glue your pieces to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the original one I had though, it was just a flower, and then I just took a safety pin and pinned it on. So you can do that if you're in an emergency.
How
But
adorable.
you can get all kinds of different ways to attach it in the jewelry department. Even I think now you can even get them at Walmart.
Yeah,
and
anywhere
stuff,
just
yeah.
about. That is
So-
something else. I'll tell you
and
what,
so-
these pieces have absolutely come out beautifully. Now, do you just do this as a hobby, or do you also do it for the public?
I do it for the public. And that's how so many people saw it and they loved it, and so I really don't have a whole lot on hand.
Okay.
But I like to do is people will have pieces from their collection, earrings from their grandmother or something,
Yeah.
and make pieces for them out of their heritage pieces.
And then perhaps like some old documents of some sort.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
How can we get in touch with you?
Well, I have a studio in my home, and that's where I do a lot of my interior design work, and I also do this. And get a hold of me at 931-261-2626 is my
Studio
it's my
number.
studio number.
Right. And then do you have an email or anything like that, or is it better just give you a call?
You can give me a call. I do have an email, and it's Sassy Southern. Sassy Southern Designs is my name of my business.
Sassy Southern Designs. I like
That's
that. It's a tongue twister, but I like it.
Yeah.
I'll not forget it either.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very
Thank you so much.
much.
This is absolutely beautiful, and you do such a fabulous
Well,
job.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming
Well,
down
thank
here
you for letting
today.
me
You're
come
welcome.
and be on here.
Welcome. Well, that's our show for today. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us at handmadetn@bltv.net or like us on Facebook at HandMade Tennessee. Thank you very much to our very special guest today, Valerie Wells.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm Kimberly Vance, and I hope that you've been inspired to create your own Handmade Tennessee. If you enjoyed today's show, check us out on Facebook for other shows and information at www.facebook.com/HandmadeTennessee. You can also email us your comments or suggestions to handmadetn@bltv.net.